A poor janitor was mocked daily until the owner discovered the truth. They laughed before I even spoke. Every morning, as the glass doors of Motivational Holdings slid open, the same sound followed me. Whispers, stifled chuckles, the scrape of expensive shoes stepping carefully away from the wet floor I had just cleaned. I kept my head low, my hands tight around the wooden handle of my mop, pretending not to hear. But I heard everything. Here comes the cleaner. Careful, she might drip on your suit. Imagine working here and ending up like that. Like that. That was me. I was the woman in the faded blue janitor's uniform, sleeves rolled to hide the scars on my wrists, hair wrapped neatly under a scarf that had seen better days. To them, I was invisible, except when I was in the way. None of them knew my name, and none of them cared to ask. Motivational Holdings was one of the most powerful companies in the city. Glass walls, marble floors, offices that smelled of perfume and ambition. People fought for jobs here. Some sold land. Some bribed. Some prayed. I cleaned its floors. Every day at exactly 5:30 a.m., I arrived before the executives, before the secretaries, before the interns with their fresh degrees and hopeful eyes. I scrubbed the stains they never noticed. I emptied bins full of shredded secrets. I wiped fingerprints off doors that only opened for those with access cards. And every day, I was mocked, especially by Mr. Daniel Cato, the operations manager. He never missed a chance. "Hey, cleaner," he would shout across the hallway. "You missed a spot." Or, "Is that too much thinking for you?" Laughter followed him like a loyal dog. Sometimes he would deliberately drop paper near my feet. "Oops," he'd say. "That's your job, right?" I would bend down slowly, pick it up, and say nothing. Silence was my shield. What they didn't know, what none of them could imagine, was that every insult I swallowed was a reminder of a promise I had made long ago. A promise I could not break. On this particular morning, everything felt heavier. The mop, my steps, even the air. As I cleaned the executive floor, voices drifted from the conference room. "The owner is coming today." My hand froze mid-swipe. The owner. People spoke of him like a myth. Mr. Elijah Mbeki, the founder of Motivational Holdings. A man so powerful he rarely showed his face. Some said he lived abroad. Others said he watched everything from the shadows. I had never seen him. "Big inspection," someone whispered. "Anyone who messes up is finished." I lowered my head again and continued mopping. If only they knew. By mid-morning, the building buzzed with tension. Suits were straighter. Smiles were forced. Even Mr. Cato was unusually polite, at least to those who mattered. Not to me. As I cleaned near the elevators, he walked past with 2 junior staff members. "Make sure this place doesn't smell like poverty," he said loudly, glancing at me. "The owner has standards." The words burned, but my face remained calm. Then it happened. The elevator doors opened, and a man stepped out, tall, gray-haired, dressed simply, his eyes sharp and observant. The entire hallway fell silent. Mr. Elijah Mbeki. Everyone rushed forward, greeting him, bowing slightly, shaking hands. I stepped aside, pressing myself against the wall, mop held close like a barrier. As he walked past me, his eyes met mine. Just for a second. He stopped. The hallway froze. Executives held their breath. Mr. Cato's smile faltered. Mr. Mbeki looked at me, not at my uniform, not at my mop, but at my face. His brows furrowed, as if searching through a memory he couldn't quite grasp. "You," he said slowly. My heart thundered. "Yes, sir?" I replied, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. He stared a moment longer, then nodded faintly and turned away. "Interesting," he murmured. And with that single word, everything I had worked to keep hidden began to tremble. Because the owner had seen me, and recognition had flickered in his eyes. They still laughed that day, but they didn't know what was coming. If you want more emotional African stories like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel and join our story family. Your support keeps these stories alive. The moment the owner walked away, the noise returned. Not laughter, whispers. Sharp, confused, Nervous whispers. I felt eyes following me as I pushed my mop forward, slow and steady, as if nothing unusual had happened. But inside me, something ancient had stirred. A memory. A warning. Mr. Elijah Mbeki had looked at me the way someone looks at a half-forgotten dream. Familiar, unsettling, impossible. Mr. Cato recovered first. He cleared his throat loudly and laughed. "You see," he said to the others. "Even the owner checks if the cleaners are doing their job." The group chuckled, relieved. But his laughter didn't reach his eyes. Mine didn't change at all. I finished the hallway and moved toward the storage room, the one place in the building where no one bothered me. As soon as the door closed behind me, my hands began to shake. Not from fear, from memory. I leaned against the wall, breathing slowly, forcing the past back into its cage. They didn't know me. They only knew the version of me that scrubbed floors for minimum wage, ate lunch alone, and spoke only when spoken to. They didn't know the woman I used to be, or the reason I chose silence over pride. Years ago, my life had burned down in one night. I had once worn suits too. I had once walked into boardrooms with confidence, my name announced before I even sat down. I had once signed documents that moved money, land, futures. And then I had trusted the wrong people. The fall was public, brutal, unforgiving. When I rose from the ashes, I swore never to let the world see me bleed again. So, I became invisible. A knock jolted me back to the present. "Cleaner," a voice snapped. "Why are you hiding in there?" "Mr. Cato." I straightened my uniform and stepped out. "Yes, sir." He looked me up and down, irritation flickering across his face. "The owner asked for a full building walkthrough. Make sure you don't embarrass us." Embarrass us? As if my existence alone was a stain. "I understand," I said calmly. As we walked, I noticed something else. Mr. Mbeki wasn't speaking much. He watched, listened. His eyes moved from faces to corners, from laughter to silence. When we reached the finance department, something unexpected happened. A young intern fumbled with a folder, papers spilling everywhere. People groaned. Someone cursed. I stepped forward instinctively, kneeling to help. "Leave it," Mr. Cato snapped. "That's her job anyway." But Mr. Mbeki raised his hand. "Let her," he said. I froze. Slowly, I gathered the papers. Financial reports. Projections. Numbers. My eyes scanned them without permission. Old habits die hard. I handed them back neatly arranged, aligned exactly the way they should be. Mr. Mbeki noticed. He took one report from the intern, flipping through it. His brow tightened. "Who prepared this?" he asked. The intern stammered a name. Mr. Mbeki turned to me. "And you," he said gently. "How long have you worked here?" The room went silent. 3 years, I replied. "And before that?" A pause. "Other places." Mr. Cato laughed nervously. "Sir, she's just a cleaner. Probably doesn't even understand those numbers." I lifted my eyes then, for the first time, and I looked directly at the owner. "Sir," I said softly, "with respect, the third quarter projection is overstated by 12%. If left unchecked, it will cause a shortfall by year-end." You could hear a pen drop. The intern's mouth fell open. Mr. Cato's face drained of color. Mr. Mbeki stared at me. Long. Hard. Then he smiled. Not a polite smile. A dangerous one. "Interesting," he said again. "Very interesting." He handed the file back and turned to Mr. Cato. "Continue the tour." As they walked ahead, murmurs exploded behind me. "That cleaner just spoke about projections? Did you hear that? Is she mad?" I returned to my mop, but my cover had cracked. That evening, as I prepared to leave, a message was waiting at the security desk. "The owner requests your presence tomorrow morning. Private meeting." My chest tightened. The past was knocking, and this time it would not be ignored. I did not sleep that night. The ceiling of my small rented room stared back at me as memories crept out from places I had buried long ago. Faces. Boardrooms. Signatures. Betrayal. At exactly 4:30 a.m., I rose, bathed, and wrapped my hair more neatly than usual. I wore the same janitor's uniform, freshly washed and pressed. Not because I had no other clothes, but because this was the truth I had chosen to walk in. At 7 a.m. sharp, security escorted me to the top floor. I had cleaned that floor hundreds of times, but I had never entered that office. The door was taller than me, made of dark wood and authority. When it opened, the scent of polished leather and old books filled the air. Mr. Elijah Mbeki stood by the window, hands behind his back, the city stretched beneath him. "You're punctual," he said without turning. "I value time," I replied. He turned slowly and studied me again, not as a janitor, not as an employee, but as a puzzle finally taking shape. "Sit," he said, pointing to a chair across from his desk. I remained standing. "I prefer to stand, sir." A small smile touched his lips. "That hasn't changed." The words hit me harder than any insult Mr. Cato had ever thrown. He knew. He reached into a drawer and pulled out an old file. The paper was yellowed. The ink slightly faded. He slid it across the desk. On the cover was my name, not the shortened one people here knew. My full name, Amara Ndlovu, former chief financial strategist, former partner, formerly disgraced. My throat tightened, but my face remained calm. "So," he said quietly, "the woman who once helped build this company now cleans its floors." Silence swallowed the room. "I chose that," I said at last. "No one forced me." He nodded. "You disappeared after the scandal. You took the blame alone." "Because someone had to," I replied. His eyes hardened. "And because the real thieves were very good at hiding." I met his gaze fully now. "They still are." He leaned forward. "Why come back here, Amara? Of all places." I inhaled slowly. "Because," I said, "Mavuno Holdings is bleeding, and the people you trust are smiling while they drain it." The air changed. He listened. I spoke. About false vendors, inflated contracts, money rerouted through shell companies that reported directly to O operations. To Mr. Daniel Cato. Mr. Mbeki's jaw tightened. "You could have told me," he said. "I tried," I answered softly. "Years ago." He remembered then. The meeting that was canceled. The email never answered. The accusation turned against me. I needed proof, I continued, and I needed to see how deep it went. He was silent for a long time. Then he stood. "Today," he said, "you will return to your duties." I nodded. "And tomorrow," he continued, "you will sit beside me in the boardroom." My breath caught. "As what?" I asked. He smiled, this time with satisfaction. "As the woman who never should have been silenced." That afternoon, as I mopped the executive hallway, something deliciously ironic happened. Mr. Cato approached me. "You think you're clever?" he hissed. "Talking out of turn yesterday." I looked at him calmly. "I only spoke the truth." He scoffed. "Know your place." I met his eyes. "Ido." And for the first time, he looked uncertain, because the ground beneath him was already cracking. The boardroom had never been this full. Executives sat straighter than usual, suits sharp, faces tight with forced confidence. The long glass table reflected tension instead of light. At the head sat Mr. Elijah Mbeki, calm, unreadable. And beside him, me. No map, no uniform. I wore a simple dark dress, my hair uncovered, my posture unbowed. When I entered, the room froze. Whispers erupted instantly. "That's the cleaner." "Why is she here? Is this a joke?" Mr. Cato's laugh was loud and wrong. "Sir," he said quickly, standing halfway, "there must be some mistake." Mr. Mbeki raised a hand. "No mistake," he said. "Sit down." The laughter died. I felt eyes burning into me as I took my seat. For years, I had cleaned beneath this table. Now I sat at it. Mr. Mbeki began, without ceremony. "Today," he said, "we review the truth." He nodded to me. I stood. "My name is Amara Ndlovu," I said, my voice steady, filling the room. "Some of you remember me. Most of you only know the story you were told." Mr. Cato shifted. I continued. For 3 years, I cleaned this building. I listened. I watched. I collected what you thought no one would notice. I clicked the remote. The screen lit up. Transactions. Dates. Names. Gasps rippled across the room. Inflated vendor contracts, I said. Ghost companies. Funds rerouted through intermediaries. I paused. All roads lead to operations. Mr. Cato stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. She's lying. Mr. Mbeki spoke calmly. Sit down, Daniel. He didn't. Security moved closer. My gaze never left him. You mocked me, I said softly. You called me cleaner as if it were an insult. But while you laughed, I audited you. The screen changed. Emails, signatures, approvals. Mr. Cato's face drained of color. One executive whispered, My God. I took the blame years ago to protect this company, I said. Not the thieves inside it. Mr. Mbeki stood. Daniel Cato, he said, his voice like iron. You are suspended effective immediately. Pending investigation. The room exhaled. Mr. Cato's voice broke. Sir, please. Security took his arms. As they led him away, his eyes met mine. No laughter. Only fear. Mr. Mbeki turned to the board. Let this be a lesson, he said. Titles do not define intelligence, and arrogance blinds faster than ignorance. He looked at me. Amara Ndlovu will resume her rightful role, effective today. Silence. Then hesitant applause. Then louder. I sat down slowly, heart pounding, not with vengeance, but with justice. Later that day, as I walked through the building, people stepped aside. Not out of mockery, out of respect. And yet I knew the story was not finished, because truth always demands a final reckoning. Power is quiet when it finally arrives. No applause followed me into my new office. No celebration echoed through the halls. Just silence, the respectful kind, the kind that follows truth when it has nowhere left to hide. I stood by the window, looking down at the city that had once swallowed me whole. 3 years earlier, I had walked these streets with nothing but shame clinging to my name. Now, the same streets looked different, not because they had changed, but because I had. Mr. Elijah Mbeki entered without knocking. You did what many couldn't, he said. You waited. You endured. I didn't endure for revenge, I replied. I endured for clarity. He nodded slowly. The board agrees. Your position is permanent. Full authority. I turned to face him. Then let's rebuild properly. That week, the company changed. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But deeply. Fake vendors vanished. Corrupt contracts dissolved. Promotions were frozen, then reevaluated. Some people resigned quietly. Others were escorted out with their heads low. And me? I walked the same corridors, but this time, people greeted me by name. Some apologized. Some avoided my eyes. I accepted neither satisfaction nor bitterness. Because justice doesn't need either. One afternoon, I visited the janitorial staff room. The women froze when they saw me. I smiled. I came to say thank you, I said. You kept this building running when no one noticed. One woman whispered, You were one of us. I still am, I replied. That was the moment I knew the circle had closed. Weeks later, Mavuno Holdings released an internal report, public, transparent, honest. My name stood not as a victim, but as a restorer. And for the first time since my fall, I slept peacefully. Not because I had won, but because I had told the truth. And truth, once spoken, cleans deeper than any mop ever could. If you want more emotional African stories like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel and join our story family. Your support keeps these stories alive.